I always knew my husband, Ryan, was a man who gave his all. He worked hard, rarely complained, and always put others before himself, especially me. That's why, when his 40th birthday came around, I wanted to do something truly unforgettable. We'd been together for 12 years, married for 10, and over time, I had come to learn that beneath his calm demeanor, there were little unspoken desires and fantasies he never quite voiced fully. One of them had surfaced during a quiet evening, not as a plea, but as a throwaway comment during a movie we were watching together. A couple on screen had arranged a surprise scenario for each other, and Ryan laughed, saying, "It's wild what people will do for each other. I mean, can you imagine having someone set up something like that just for you?" I didn't answer. I just smiled and tucked it away. Ryan's job in logistics management kept him tied up, and most of the time, his idea of a great evening was a hot meal and some time to unwind. But I knew he used to dream big. He'd talk about travel, unique experiences, and little adventures. Somehow, life just got in the way. So this year, I was going to do something special. I spent 2 months planning. I talked to his closest friend, Mason, to bounce off ideas. Mason laughed when I mentioned the fantasy scenario, saying, "Are you sure you want to go that far?" But I was sure. I wanted to give Ryan a moment he would never forget. The idea wasn't scandalous, but it was certainly out of the ordinary. Ryan had once told me, half joking, that being surprised by someone completely unexpected, a stranger who could play a role, make him believe for a second he was in a movie, was something he always found intriguing. He called it fantasy realism. Not romantic, not inappropriate, just immersive. So I hired someone. A professional actress named Vanessa who had excellent reviews for her immersive performances at private events. She wasn't famous, but she was talented and respectful of boundaries. She understood the assignment and treated it with the same seriousness as any theatrical role. The plan was simple. On his birthday weekend, I told Ryan I was taking him on a small getaway. We drove out to a cozy Airbnb cabin in the mountains outside Asheville, North Carolina, peaceful, private, surrounded by trees. It was perfect. I had arranged for Vanessa to arrive on Saturday afternoon, disguised as a curious hiker who had lost her way. Her role was to strike up a conversation with us, share some local legends, and eventually, reveal she was part of a local group that did interactive experiences for visitors. The experience she would offer? A customized, immersive game centered around storytelling, clues, and mystery. I didn't tell Ryan she was hired, at least not right away. That Saturday morning, Ryan and I made pancakes and drank coffee on the porch, just the two of us. He looked happy, a little more relaxed than usual. "You're up to something," he said, watching me carefully. I shrugged, smiling. "You'll see." Around noon, Vanessa made her entrance. She was wearing hiking boots, athletic clothes, and had a light dusting of dirt on her face, just enough to sell the idea. She waved, asked if she could borrow our phone for signal, and introduced herself as Natalie. Ryan looked surprised but was immediately friendly. Within minutes, Vanessa had woven a story about local trails and a hidden geocache game in the woods that she participated in with a group of locals. "It's kind of like live-action role-play meets escape room," she explained. "Would you guys be interested in trying it? It's custom-tailored, and I actually have something set up nearby that could work for you too." I nudged Ryan. "Sounds fun," I said, watching his expression. He hesitated for a moment, then smiled. "Sure. Why not?" And just like that, the fantasy had begun. Vanessa handed him a small sealed envelope and said it was the first clue. The paper inside had a cryptic riddle and a small hand-drawn map. We followed the instructions into the woods, where we found small markers and signs that guided us to a hidden box behind a tree. Inside was another note, and this one was even more elaborate, a piece of parchment styled to look ancient, with a legend about a hidden artifact from a fictional Civil War story. Ryan was completely drawn in. He laughed and muttered, "This is insane, but kind of cool." As the game progressed, he asked Vanessa if she did this full-time. She stayed in character, telling him she was part of a troupe called the Mountain Shadows that created unique experiences for couples and groups visiting the region. The entire afternoon became a whirlwind of puzzles, clues, whispered stories by the fire, and a secret message in invisible ink revealed using a candle flame. At one point, I saw Ryan looking at me, his eyes bright. "Did you plan this?" he asked softly. I just smiled. "Maybe. Do you like it?" He didn't answer immediately, but he reached out and held my hand. That night, we lit a bonfire outside the cabin. Vanessa joined us for a little while, telling one last story in a rich, dramatic tone, before excusing herself and saying she had to head back to town. Once she was gone, Ryan turned to me. "Okay, spill it. Who is she really?" I laughed. "Her name's Vanessa. She's an actress. I hired her to give you a birthday surprise. You mentioned once how much you liked the idea of being dropped into a fantasy scenario. I just wanted to give you that." Ryan stared at me, speechless. Then he shook his head and let out a soft laugh. "You remembered that?" "Of course," I said. "I remember everything that matters." He leaned in, kissed my forehead, and said, "That was the best birthday I've ever had. Not because of the game, but because of what it meant." The rest of the weekend was quiet, calm, and filled with moments that reminded me why we were so good together. We walked trails, cooked meals, and watched the stars from the porch. On the drive back home, Ryan couldn't stop talking about the experience. He wanted to tell Mason, but I made him promise to keep Vanessa's identity secret, just to preserve the mystery. "It was like being a kid again," he said. "Only better, because you gave me the memory." Over the next few weeks, he seemed lighter. Like something inside him had been rekindled. He started sketching again, an old hobby he had abandoned, and even signed us up for a couple's weekend retreat later that month. It wasn't about the fantasy itself, it was about feeling seen, appreciated, and known. And in turn, that brought us closer. For our anniversary 3 months later, he surprised me with a weekend in Charleston. There was no elaborate roleplay, no hired actors, but he'd planned every detail. A candlelit dinner on the rooftop of a historic inn, a boat ride at sunset, and a handwritten letter he slipped under my pillow. The letter said, "What you did for me showed me how much we still have to discover together. Thank you for reminding me how to dream again. We're not the couple that shouts our love from rooftops. We're quiet, steady, and private." But this experience became a secret chapter between us, a little adventure that sparked something more lasting than just a weekend thrill. It reminded us that fantasies aren't about pretending to be someone else, they're about remembering who we are when the world gets too loud.